ever think about like the tiny motors powering, the invisible world around us? It's pretty mind-blowing when you really get down to it.
It really is. And get this, those motors are not only complex, but also incredibly efficient.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and that's got huge implications for, well, all sorts of fields. Medicine, nanotechnology. I mean, we're talking potential breakthroughs.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
Yeah.
So what exactly did scientists uncover about these tiny motors? Our deep dive today is based on this recent paper from the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences. So
Right. Well, to really appreciate the significance of this paper, you kind of have to first understand bacterial flagella.
Okay.
Think of them as like tiny tails that bacteria use to move around with.
Okay.
So sort of like propellers on a boat.
Right, like little outboard motors.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, these flagellas are powered by the flagellar motor, which has two main parts, the rotating rotor and the stator that surround it.
Right, yeah, and I think we've talked about stators before on the show, haven't we?
We have, and scientists, already had a pretty good understanding of how they work, but the exact structure of the ion pathways within them, that's been a bit of a mystery until now.
Oh, okay, interesting.
Yeah.
So what made this research different?
Well, these researchers decided to focus on a specific bacteria called Vibrio alginolyticus.
Okay.
Now, what makes it unique is that it uses sodium ions to power its flagellar motor, unlike some other bacteria that might use protons.
Oh, okay.
And to get a close look at this motor, they used a technique called cryo-electron microscopy.
CryoEM.
CryoEM, yeah.
Isn't that kind of like a high-speed camera for molecules? I've seen some pretty amazing pictures from CryoEM.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. It basically lets scientists see these incredibly tiny structures in, well, unprecedented detail, and in this case, it allowed them to pinpoint the exact molecular cavities inside those stators where the sodium ions actually pass through.
Oh, wow. So they basically mapped out the motor's fuel lines.
Exactly.
That's incredible.
And it's even more interesting because they found that the stators in Vibrio alginolyticus, they actually act as a filter.
A filter?
Yeah, only letting sodium ions through and blocking other types.
Oh, so it's not just a passageway. It's like a security checkpoint.
Exactly.
Okay.
So they also found that an ion channel blocker called phenamyl can actually stop the flow of sodium ions through that stator.
Wait, hold on. Back up a second. What exactly is an ion channel blocker?
Well, think of ion channels like pores in cell membranes.
Okay.
And they let ions pass through, really important for lots of processes in the body. But a blocker is basically a molecule that can plug up that pore.
Ah, I see. So in this case, the phenamyl is like jamming the bacterial motor.
That's a great way to put it, yeah.
By stopping those sodium ions from powering it.
Yeah.
Which seems like it could have some pretty big implications if you're trying to, I don't know, stop bacteria from spreading.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And that brings us to the potential medical applications of this research.
Okay, so we're talking about like stopping bacteria right in its tracks just by cutting off its fuel supply?
Yeah, pretty much.
It's kind of like taking away the keys to their little bacterial cars.
Exactly. And by really understanding how these motors work, we could develop some incredibly targeted drugs.
Oh, okay.
Drugs that would essentially immobilize those bacteria and give our immune systems a fighting chance.
So instead of those broad-spectrum antibiotics, we could use a more like precise approach.
Right.
That just stops the bacteria from moving.
Exactly.
That could really help with this whole antibiotic resistance problem, couldn't it?
It really could, yeah. And it's not just about, stopping the bad bacteria. There's this other fascinating aspect of this research that has the potential to, completely revolutionize nanotechnology.
Oh, right. You're talking about that amazing efficiency you mentioned earlier.
The fact that these bacterial motors operate at almost 100% efficiency.
Right. It's amazing what nature can do, isn't it? It's makes you wonder what we could accomplish if we could somehow harness that kind of efficiency in our technology.
Absolutely. I mean, imagine, microscopic machines that were just as efficient as these bacterial motors.
Wow.
We could build tiny robots that could deliver drugs directly to specific cells in the body.
Targeted drug delivery at like a microscopic level. That's straight out of science fiction.
It is, and that's just one application. Think about cleaning up environmental pollutants, repairing damaged tissue, even building self-assembling nanostructures.
Wait, so we could be talking about cleaner water, more effective medical treatments.
Yeah.
Even self-healing materials.
It's pretty mind-boggling.
It really is.
And it all comes back to studying this tiny bacterial motor.
Right.
It really highlights the importance of basic research and how how exploring the natural world can lead to some incredible breakthroughs.
Yeah, it also makes you realize how it's all connected, huh?
It really does.
We start with these tiny bacterial tails, and now we're talking about, like revolutionizing medicine, nanotechnology. I mean, who knows what else?
It's really all about that scientific curiosity, isn't it?
Yeah.
Sometimes the biggest discoveries come from, the smallest things.
It really is. It's makes you wonder what other secrets are hidden in that microscopic world. It's almost like there's a whole universe to discover right under our noses.
And that's the beauty of science, There's always more to explore, always more to understand.
So for our listeners who are now just as fascinated by these bacterial motors as we are,
Yeah.
where would you suggest they go to learn more?
Well, I'd say start by actually seeing those flagellas in action.
Okay.
There are some really incredible videos online, showing those bacteria zipping around powered by these tiny motors.
Oh, cool.
Just search for bacterial flagella movement, and you'll be amazed.
Yeah, it's a good reminder that even in the tiniest corners of the universe, there's still beauty and complexity, and just this endless potential for discovery.
Absolutely, and sometimes those tiny corners hold the keys to solving some of our biggest challenges.
Well said. Well, on that note, we'll wrap up our deep dive into the world of bacterial motors.
It's been a fascinating journey.
It really has been great having you.
Oh, thanks for having me. Always a pleasure.
And to our listeners, thanks for joining us. And until next time, keep exploring and stay curious.